Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place that cuts through all the noise to get you those essential insights from, well, the world's most influential ideas.
That's right.
And today, we are diving headfirst into a really fundamental question. I mean, it sits right at the core of business success, leadership, even, our daily interactions.
Absolutely.
What is it that truly drives long-term achievement? Is it the, let's say, shrewd art of persuasion? Or is it more about building that unshakable bedrock of trust?
It's a huge question.
It really is. And for you, our listener, maybe you're prepping for a big meeting or trying to get up to speed fast on the latest thinking, or maybe you're just, really curious. This deep dive, it's your shortcut to understanding these two powerful forces.
And what's so fascinating, I think, is that this isn't just some abstract debate, right? We're not just theorizing here.
No, not at all.
These are two really distinct philosophies, different ways of operating with very real, tangible consequences for how we lead, how we sell, how we build things that actually last.
That choice, or maybe the blend you create, it can really define everything.
It absolutely can. A company's whole direction, an individual's impact.
Okay, so I'm genuinely excited to lay out the first philosophy today. Persuasion. The strategic use of it. Almost like alchemy sometimes. My argument, and I'm drawing a lot from Robert Cialdini's brilliant work and others too, is that really understanding and skillfully using these deep psychological triggers, it's not just one way, it's often the most effective way to move people, to get decisions made, to achieve goals.
So mastering the how.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mastering the how of influence, the mechanics, often unconscious, that guide what we do. It's about being effective, profoundly effective.
Okay. And my counter argument, which I believe is not just compelling, but ultimately, well, more sustainable, is the absolute necessity of building that unwavering vulnerability-based trust.
Right.
This view, and it's deeply rooted in Patrick Lencioni's work on teams, reinforced by people like Stephen Covey, it basically says that any meaningful success, lasting success, has to be built on that foundation.
So you're focused on the why.
Precisely. It's about establishing the why, that fundamental human connection, the shared belief that holds everything together. Relying too much on just persuasive techniques, without that core trust, it can backfire.
Undermine the relationship.
Exactly. It undermines the genuine relationships you absolutely need for the long haul, for real impact. It's a delicate balance maybe, but for me, trust has to be the starting point.
Well, that sets the stage perfectly for the spirited exploration we're promising today. We'll bring in examples, case studies, some surprising facts from all the great sources you've provided.
Looking forward to it.
All woven together to really illuminate this crucial debate. So let's jump in. Let's unpack the art of influence first.
Okay,
let's really get into this. The art of influence. Cialdini's work, Influence, it's seminal, right? He talks about these psychological triggers, these deep-seated, almost automatic principles that, well, they make us say yes, often without us even realizing exactly why.
the mental shortcuts.
Exactly. And it's important, I think, to frame this right. It's not about manipulation, not in a negative sense. It's about truly understanding human nature, understanding the shortcuts our brains take, what genuinely motivates people.
So effectiveness through understanding.
Right. Being incredibly effective by connecting, often unconsciously, with motivations that are already there.
Okay.
And one of the most powerful ideas from Cialdini, and it's really core to my argument here, is the unity rule.
Usually. Okay.
Now, we often think persuasion is about similarity, right? We like people who are like us.
Sure, that makes sense.
But Cialdini says unity goes deeper, much deeper than just surface similarities. It's about shared identity.
Yeah.
People are way more inclined to say yes to someone they see as one of them.
Not just like them, but of them.
Exactly. It goes beyond sharing a hobby or liking the same brand. We're talking fundamental shared identities, almost tribal categories.
Right.
Race, ethnicity, nationality, family, political groups, religious affiliations.
Even sports teams or brand loyalties.
Absolutely. Passionate fan bases. Think about it. You might have more in common day-to-day with a coworker than, say, a distant cousin you barely see.
Right.
But who do you instinctively feel is of you? It's the cousin, right? That's unity.
That shared me idea.
Precisely. The we, in this context, represents a shared me. So what one member does, their reputation, it actually affects the self-esteem of the others. A win for your team feels like your win. An insult to your family feels personal.
Okay, I see that.
Now imagine how powerful that is in business. If a potential client feels that deep, almost familial connection to your brand or your team.
It bypasses logic.
It truly does. It's an immediate bond. They feel invested already, like they belong to your tribe. It creates this sort of pre-approved willingness to trust and agree.
That's definitely powerful. The idea of identity as a lever, I can see how tapping into that us feeling could override a lot. But let me ask you this. What happens if that unity is, well, manufactured? Leverage for a quick win without real shared values underneath?
The sustainability question.
Yeah. Does that kind of, engineered tribalism risk falling apart if it's not backed by something authentic? Does it feel superficial eventually?
That's a fair point, and it brings us to the strategic application, because this is where it gets really interesting. Once you grasp not just unity, but all these psychological levers.
Cialdini's principles.
Right. You can strategically apply them not just for one sale, but to move whole markets, build empires even. Look at Eugene Schwartz's classic breakthrough advertising.
Ah, a legend.
Absolutely. He argues that great advertising doesn't create desire out of thin air. It focuses existing mass desire onto a specific product.
Taps into what's already there.
Exactly. It channels what people already want, what they're yearning for. The real skill is deeply understanding your prospect's state of awareness.
Their awareness, meaning?
Meaning, how aware are they? Do they know they have a problem and know your solution exists?
Yeah.
Or maybe they know about the product but don't want it yet, don't see how it helps them? Or are they totally unaware of the problem itself?
Okay, different levels.
Right. And tailoring your message, that's where the headline, to that exact level is crucial. Think about it. A headline like corns works brilliantly if someone knows they have corns and wants relief. Simple, direct.
Hits the pain point.
Exactly. Or a problem solution like stops maddening itch speaks right to an urgent, existing desire.
Gets attention immediately.
And even more powerful, headlines that promise to remove limitations people thought were unconquerable, like that famous one, shrinks hemorrhoids without surgery.
Wow. Yeah, that's direct.
It doesn't just promise a fix, it implicitly dismisses the perceived downsides of other options, like surgery, and highlights a unique, almost miraculous benefit. That's a technique Schwartz called concentration.
Concentration. Focusing desire by eliminating alternatives.
Exactly. You concentrate all that desire onto your specific, superior solution by subtly knocking down the alternatives in the prospect's mind.
Clever.
And Schwartz offers a whole toolkit. Beyond concentration, there's camouflage.
Camouflage, like hiding something.
Sort of. It's about borrowing conviction or believability from somewhere else, from common experiences, external authorities, making your claims feel more credible.
Like using testimonials or scientific-sounding language.
Precisely. Or starting with, like Grandma always said, or doctors now agree, you're leveraging trust that already exists elsewhere to make your specific pitch feel more reliable.
Okay. Borrowing credibility.
Then you add the final touches, things like verification, using authorities, proof points, testimonials, reinforcement, making stronger, bolder claims as you build your case, and crucially, interweaving emotion, vivid imagery, and logic together.
Creating a whole narrative experience.
Exactly. You want to create this compelling, multisensory story, the ultimate goal, a strong, undeniable emotional reaction in the reader or listener.
Get them in the gut.
You got it. When you connect emotionally, you create this powerful, visceral link. It turns passive interest into active desire, into action. It's not just about info, it's about crafting an experience that leads somewhere.
I can definitely see the craftsmanship in that, how meticulously you can shape a message to be persuasive. It's clearly effective at grabbing attention, channeling desire. But I have to push back a bit here. If the framework involves destroying alternatives or borrowing conviction, how do you ensure that doesn't cross the line into just, manipulation, exploiting psychological triggers for pure gain? Is there a clear ethical line?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Because if you cross that line, even if you get short-term results, isn't the foundation incredibly shaky, vulnerable to collapsing the moment people feel manipulated? The technique might work, but the intent behind it, that feels like it could sour everything.
That is a crucial distinction. And I'd argue, and I think Cialdini would too, that the ethics aren't in the tools themselves. They're in the user, the intent.
Both tools are neutral.
Exactly. These principles work just as well for genuinely good, beneficial purposes as they do for unethical ones. The application determines the morality. So what does this mean for real-world success? Peter Thiel, in 0 to 1, makes a really strong case, almost provocative.
Teal always is.
He argues that sales ability, and it's a persuasion at its heart, is absolutely critical. It's what separates the superstars from the also-rans in almost any field.
Really, any field.
Think about Wall Street. You start as an analyst. Technical skills are valued, but where do you aim? To become a deal maker, someone who can persuade clients to commit huge sums.
Right, the relationship, the pitch.
Or lawyers. They value credentials, sharp legal minds. But who leads the top firms? The rainmakers, the ones who bring in the big clients through persuasion.
Okay, I see the pattern.
Thiel even argues that academic ideas, the future of scientific research, they succeed based on persuasion too, not just pure intellectual merit. You have to persuade grant committees, journal editors, your peers.
Convince them your work matters.
It's a bold claim, but it shows how deeply influence runs through everything. Thiel even suggests superior sales and distribution can create a monopoly without a hugely different product.
Wow, just by getting it out there effectively.
Yeah, that shows its standalone power. If you can reach the right people with the right persuasive message, you can dominate.
So how do you measure that, the success of persuasion?
Well, you look at the hard metrics, the bottom line. Customer lifetime value, CLV, has to be higher than the customer acquisition cost, CL.
CLV sales, standard business sense.
On the surface, yes.
Yeah.
But the technical art here is accurately forecasting that future value and precisely attributing those acquisition costs. It gets complex fast.
Yeah, tracking where a customer came from, how much they're really worth over time.
Exactly. How do you assign marketing spend across, say, a social ad, a webinar, an email campaign that all led to one conversion? How do you project value when markets shift constantly? The real skill, where companies win or lose, is segmenting customers, understanding which channels and messages bring in the highest profitable lifetime value.
So you optimize your persuasive efforts for the best long-term return.
Precisely. It's not just about one sale. It's about the financial effectiveness of your persuasion and distribution over that whole projected relationship.
Makes sense.
Okay, let's look at some real-world examples, big ones. Think Elon Musk.
Okay. Tesla, SpaceX.
His biographers, like Ashley Vance, they really highlight his marketing savvy, even call it chicanery sometimes, alongside the engineering brilliance, of course. But that savvy was crucial for Tesla's survival.
He's a master storyteller.
Absolutely. And Vance details how Musk persuaded NASA to sign billion-dollar contracts for SpaceX to replace the space shuttle, a brand new company.
Against established giants.
Exactly. He overcame huge political inertia in the aerospace industry, an industry that spread jobs across all 50 states to give contracts to a company with, like, 3,000 employees at the time. That's not just engineering. That's pure sales grandmaster persuasion, moving bureaucratic mountains.
It's a credible story.
Or a different flavor from John Brooks's Business Adventures, a Pfizer shareholder meeting. Chairman John McKean. He starts by calling the stockholders, "My dear and cherished friends." Really warm. Then offers free sample kits of Pfizer products.
Softening them up.
Totally.
Yeah.
Disarming them with charm and gifts before the president delivers the news about record operations. It's reciprocity, liking, Cialdini 101. Even the pros, the professional stockholders, felt a fleeting sense of genuine communication.
Masterful performance.
It was. Blending personal charm, psychological triggers, and solid data, all to persuade.
Okay.
Then there's Clarence Saunders of Piggly Wiggly. More aggressive. Statements like, "I've got Wall Street and the whole gang licked."
Confidence bordering on hubris.
Maybe. His big gamble to corner the stock failed eventually, lost the company. But his story shows the raw power of persuasion he had. He convinced people to follow his incredibly audacious plan for a while.
So persuasion can be powerful, but maybe not always sustainable.
Exactly. It's a great contrast, short-term impact versus long-term value. Persuasion achieves amazing things, but what underpins it matters.
Right.
And one last one. Amazon. Bezos's instruction about Google for their Urubamba system. Treat Google like a mountain. You can climb it, but you can't move it. Use them, but don't make them smarter.
Oof. Strategic, but not exactly friendly.
Not at all. This isn't about building trust with a competitor. It's pure strategy. Navigating, influencing, extracting value from the landscape without relying on vulnerability-based trust. It's leveraging power dynamics, understanding the competitive reality.
Acknowledging the game.
Right. These examples, they just underscore how persuasion drives markets, strategy, competition. It's a core force.
Okay, those examples are incredibly powerful. They really demonstrate how persuasion can kickstart action, grab market share, overcome huge obstacles. I absolutely agree. Influence is a critical skill. But here's where it gets fascinating for me and where I think the core tension lies. while persuasion is undeniable for starting things, without that foundation of trust.
Yeah.
So many of those techniques risk becoming hollow, unsustainable, even counterproductive down the road. Trust isn't just another tool in the box, it's the bedrock.
The essential foundation.
Absolutely. The non-negotiable foundation for sustainable success, real influence, resilient relationships. Without it, the most brilliant persuasion can start to feel like manipulation, right?
Yeah.
And then credibility just evaporates.
Leaving you with nothing.
Exactly. Look at Patrick Lencioni's work, especially the 5 dysfunctions of a team. It illustrates this perfectly. The primacy of trust for organizational health.
Catherine, the CEO character.
Right. Catherine. She's under massive pressure for financial results. But what's her #1 priority? Getting our act together as a team.
Before anything else.
Before anything else. She knows it's the prerequisite for any external success, sales, marketing, whatever. Her focus isn't outward persuasion, it's internal health.
Dealing with the dysfunctions.
Yes, directly addressing those destructive behaviors, even challenging the leader, pushing uncomfortable truths. It takes discipline, persistence, she argues, to shed those dysfunctions.
Fear of conflict, lack of commitment.
Avoidance of accountability, inattention to results. And what's the root of all of them?
Absence of trust. Vulnerability-based trust.
Bingo. Lencioni points out, real progress often means you stop talking about teamwork all the time and you start actually experiencing it. Cooperation, real problem solving, shared commitment that flows naturally when trust is there.
You have to be healthy inside to execute outside.
You got it. Without that internal cohesion built on trust, any external persuasive push, no matter how clever, eventually falls apart because of internal friction. Lack of real buy-in.
Okay.
And Stephen Covey in 7 Habits takes this even deeper, his concept of the eloquence of character.
What you are shouts so loudly.
I cannot hear what you say. It's such a powerful line. Absolute trust, Covey argues, doesn't come from slick communication or persuasive arguments. It comes from knowing someone's character.
Their integrity, competence, motives.
Yes. That silent, unconscious, unseen influence of life. It's the constant radiation of who someone really is, not who they pretend to be in a meeting.
That contrasts sharply with just using techniques.
Totally. If those techniques aren't backed by genuine character, authentic intent, people sniff it out eventually. It feels insincere, manipulative, like a facade, not a solid building.
Makes sense.
And this focus on character, it extends directly to how companies should treat their people. Covey's production capability PC principle.
The goose and the golden egg.
Exactly. It sounds simple, but it's profound. Treat your employees with the same care you want them to show your best customers because, as he says, you can buy someone's hands, their back, their time.
But not their heart or their brain.
You can't buy their heart, their loyalty, enthusiasm, commitment, or their brain, their creativity, ingenuity, proactive thinking. Those things are volunteer.
And they're only volunteered when there's trust.
Precisely. If you only focus on the golden eggs, short-term production, immediate profits, and you neglect the goose, your people, their well-being, their ability to produce...
You kill the goose.
Eventually, yes. Ruined health, worn-out equipment, broken relationships. The aha moment is realizing the goose isn't a cost. It's the only sustainable source of future golden eggs. Neglecting it is long-term self-destruction.
That's a really powerful analogy. The long-term investment required for trust. But let me push back a bit like you did.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need speed. Competitive markets, disruptive tech.
Yeah.
You might not have years to build trust. You need to persuade people now.
The urgency dilemma.
Right. How do you balance that immediate need for impact, which persuasion delivers so well, with this long-game trust building? Especially if time and resources are tight, isn't there a risk of just being outpaced if you wait for trust to bloom organically?
That's a critical point, host, and it really highlights the tension. But I'd argue that even in urgent situations, building that essential trust still requires genuine, consistent action, not just clever words. And it absolutely has to start at the top.
Leadership sets the tone.
Completely. Look at Covey's emotional bank account metaphor. It's perfect here. You build trust by making steady deposits.
Acts of kindness, keeping promises.
Showing integrity, real concern. And crucially, sincere apologies when you mess up those are vital withdrawals, saying, I was wrong or I disrespected you. That takes real character strength. Deep security.
Because it requires vulnerability.
Exactly. People who lack that inner security struggle to apologize. They fear looking weak, they rationalize. But without those sincere deposits and the willingness to own mistakes, the account stays empty. And any persuasive attempt feels transactional, or worse, just self-serving.
People see right through it.
They do. And this leads right into the win-win paradigm, another cornerstone for trust. Win-win outcomes, Covey says, need both high courage, advocating for your own needs, and high consideration, deeply understanding and respecting others' needs.
Maturity, basically.
It's the mark of real maturity, moving beyond just thinking about yourself. And this flows from what he calls the abundance mentality.
Believing there's enough for everyone.
Right. A deep inner sense of worth that believes there's plenty out there, so you're willing to share credit, power, profit. Because someone else's success doesn't diminish yours.
That's the opposite of the scarcity mentality.
Exactly. The scarcity mentality is that zero-sum game. If you win, I lose. Think of the coworker hoarding credit or the company obsessed with crushing competitors instead of creating value. That stifles collaboration, breeds toxic competition.
Whereas abundance leads to public victory.
Yes. Mutually beneficial results through effective, trust-based interaction. Real partnerships, long-term collaboration. Things persuasion alone can never guarantee.
Okay.
Proactive leadership is also key for building this trust. Proactive people, they're driven by values, not just feelings or circumstances.
They take initiative.
They anticipate needs, they empathize, they read situations well. They actively look for ways to compensate for others' weaknesses and play to their strengths. Covey tells that great story about the executive working for a difficult president.
Right, he didn't just give the info asked for.
He gave analysis, recommendations, foresight, consistently.
Yeah.
Over time, that built immense trust in his judgment, expanded his circle of influence, and actually buffered his team from the president's issues.
Built through action, not just words.
Exactly. Not one big persuasive speech, but steady, trust-building actions.
And that connects to extreme ownership, right? Decentralized command.
Perfectly. Jocko Willink and Leif Babin take that military principle, empowering junior leaders. Don't ask for instructions constantly. Figure out what needs to be done and do it.
Within limits, of course.
Within defined left and right limits, yes. But it builds huge trust in their competence, their initiative. It encourages proactive behavior. And crucially, senior leaders have to trust their subordinates to make good calls and communicate vital info upwards.
Mutual trust up and down the chain.
It creates this incredibly robust system, shared ownership, accountability, rapid adaptation, all built on that bedrock of trust and respect.
Okay, so that really lays out the case for trust's importance. But what happens when it's missing or when it's broken?
Oh, the consequences. And they can be devastating, host. Truly devastating, leading to complete organizational paralysis, even catastrophic failure. Think about General Motors. Alfred Sloan detailed their struggles. Durant's early structure, the Keiretsu model.
Inspired by Japanese groups.
Right. It worked initially, but it was based on command and control, not really on market forces or deep trust. Durant tried to keep suppliers competitive by making them sell outside GM too, but after WWII, that external check vanished.
So they got complacent.
Exactly. The technical issue wasn't the integration itself, it was the lack of internal market pressure and real accountability. Those accessory divisions became insulated, inefficient, expensive. It dragged the whole company down for decades. A systemic failure because control replaced trust and market feedback.
Wow. Decades of stagnation from that.
And on a personal level, the lack of trust is just as crippling. Katharine Graham, in Personal History, she talks about her deep distrust of her husband, Philip Graham. Brilliant guy, but troubled. The unpredictability of his behavior.
Made real connection impossible.
It created immense tension, rigidity, paralyzed the relationship. It shows how lack of trust stops any functional interaction, marriage, friendship, business. And remember, the richest man in Babylon. The soul of a slave versus the soul of a free man.
Right. One controlled by fear, the other acting with agency.
It suggests your internal stance towards trust, or lack of it, shapes your whole destiny. How much respect you command. A free person builds relationships, earns trust, relies on themselves. A slave is reactive, fearful.
Okay, and the ultimate example of broken trust?
Has to be Enron. The smartest guys in the room lays it bare. A collapse rooted in crimes of greed, arrogance, and betrayal. Systemic breakdown.
Worse than Milken, even.
The scale was different. Enron shattered public confidence broadly. Sharon Watkins' letter warning about accounting fraud, SEC violations, things she said were common knowledge among employees, actually joked about.
Joked about. That's chilling.
It points to a complete ethical collapse. Everyone knew, but it continued, leading to ruin, convictions, lost pensions. And Jeff Skilling, insisting it was just a run on the bank, not fraud, even against legal advice.
Denial and lack of accountability.
Total lack of accountability. Destroying any shred of remaining trust. A monumental failure of character where market persuasion finally crashed against the reality of zero trust.
So building for the future requires that trust perspective.
Absolutely. It requires that long-term view. Clayton Christensen, in How Will You Measure Your Life, uses that great family analogy. Parents obsessing over a child's resume, the external metrics.
Instead of building skills, character, real growth.
Exactly. They miss the point. It's like focusing only on short-term persuasive wins instead of building the underlying trust, capability, and character needed for long-term flourishing.
Cultivating the capability, not just the appearance.
Right. And even financially, the richest man in Babylon advises trusting your own principles. Every gold piece you save is a slave to work for you. The 5 laws of gold. They emphasize wisdom, sticking to what you know, avoiding quick-rich schemes.
Building trust in your own strategy.
Yes, internal trust in your plan, in delayed gratification, in sound principles, not being swayed by market hype or persuasive promises from tricksters. It's a character-based approach to building real security.
Wow. Okay. What an incredible exploration of two really powerful, often opposing forces. We've definitely seen how persuasion, understanding those triggers, using strategic communication can move people, open doors, conquer markets, sometimes with incredible speed.
Yeah, the examples are undeniable. Cialdini's unity rule, Schwartz's copywriting mastery.
Right. The power to influence is potent. Elon Musk getting those NASA deals, Pfizer charming shareholders. It shows that mastering the how of influence delivers real, often dramatic results that you just wouldn't get otherwise.
Absolutely. The ability to initiate action to capture attention is crucial.
It is.
And at the same time, we've dug deep into how trust, built on character, vulnerability, real relationships, forms that essential, non-negotiable foundation for loyalty, for team cohesion, for success that actually lasts.
Lencioni's team's Covey's character.
Exactly. They highlight that the why, the human connection, the mutual respect is paramount. Without that bedrock, even the smartest persuasion is fragile, prone to failure, like Enron, or stagnation, like GM. Trust creates the environment where people truly commit, contribute their best, build something enduring.
Not just act once because they were convinced.
Right. It's about deep engagement.
So both are clearly powerful. You can't really ignore either one. You have to articulate your vision, your value. That's persuasion. Without clear communication, a compelling message, even the best ideas just die on the vine.
You need to be heard.
You need to be heard. Like Seth Godin's Purple Cow, you need to be remarkable, create that initial buzz, persuade people to even look your way in a noisy world. But for that message to stick, to build something real and lasting.
It needs fertile ground.
Exactly. Ground prepared and cultivated by trust.
And what's really interesting, I think, as we bring this together, is that the most sustainable success isn't really an either-or. It's often a dynamic interplay. A symbiosis where persuasion and trust strengthen each other.
How so?
Well, think about the Purple Cow again. Being remarkable gets attention, that's persuasion. But to sustain it, like Starbucks did, you have to consistently deliver on that promise.
That delivery builds the trust.
Precisely. That consistent delivery builds trust and deepens loyalty over time. Without the trust, the initial remarkability just fizzles out, becomes yesterday's news.
That makes sense. Like Amazon, too. Their initial persuasion was convenience, selection, price, powerful stuff.
Got millions to try them.
But then Bezos shifted focus. Everyday low prices, obsessive customer service like replacing that Kindle for Senegal himself.
Building deep customer trust. Strategically.
Right. It wasn't just good PR. It was strategic trust building. And that trust makes future sales almost effortless. It facilitates everything. It's about those learning relationships, focusing on lifetime value. When trust is there, future persuasion is so much easier.
And the reverse is also true. Trust, once you have it, can be amplified and deepened by really effective, transparent communication, which is basically sophisticated persuasion. Think blue ocean leadership.
The 2B canvases.
Right. Leaders don't just issue orders. They draft the canvases, explain how the new roles make employees more effective, get feedback with specific examples.
It's persuasion for buy-in and alignment.
Exactly. It uses clear communication, a persuasive act, to build deep trust in the new direction because everyone understands the why and the how. It's informed commitment, not blind obedience.
Like Dalio at Bridgewater with conflict resolution.
Perfect example. Making Greg and Trina collaborate on turning their conflict into a case study for everyone, forcing them to publicly inquire into each other's views.
Radical transparency through persuasive communication.
Yes. It's a persuasive act to gain organizational buy-in for that transparency, which ultimately builds deeper understanding and trust across the board. Even Steve Jobs.
Difficult but visionary.
Right. He evolved from don't compromise to real artistship. His passion, his incredibly clear vision, communicated persuasively. It built immense trust in his leadership, in Apple's direction, even when things were tough. His ability to persuade solidified the trust.
Okay, so this brings us right to the core challenge, doesn't it? How do we find that balance? Consciously, effectively, for sustainable success, not just quick wins.
Good strategy, bad strategy gives us a great framework. Good strategy needs three things: diagnosis of the challenge, a guiding policy to address it, and coherent actions to execute it.
Diagnosis, policy, action.
And that process needs both. You need a compelling vision persuasion to convince people a diagnosis is right and the policy is sound. And you need deep organizational trust and capability to actually execute those coherent actions.
People have to believe the strategy and trust that the team can deliver.
Exactly. Without trust, the persuasion for the strategy just falls flat.
And Benjamin Graham, the intelligent investor, he brings it down to the personal level. How your investments behave is much less important than how you behave.
Internal discipline over market noise.
Right. It's not about market persuasion. It's trust in your own rational principles, your long-term strategy, resisting the persuasive hype or fear from others. It's internal trust in your own framework, being persuaded by facts, not emotions.
And finally, Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, foundational stuff. He points out that order and good government, security of individuals, that's the bedrock.
The foundation for everything else.
That's what fosters industry, innovation, the desire to improve. Trust in the system, rule of law, security, stability, that's the precondition that allows economic persuasion, like marketing and entrepreneurship, to actually thrive and build lasting wealth.
Without societal trust, individual persuasion has limits.
The foundation has to be solid.
What an absolutely fantastic deep dive. We've really covered the map on these two incredibly powerful forces. Persuasion, understanding triggers, strategic communication. It clearly moves people, opens markets, drives impact. It's the spark.
And trust built on character, vulnerability, genuine connection, that's the essential, enduring foundation for loyalty, cohesion, success that actually lasts far beyond the initial push. It's the ground that lets things grow deep roots.
Both are critical. You can't have one without risking the other, it seems. You need persuasion to articulate your vision, to make your case, to be heard. But for that message to truly land, to build something durable, it needs that fertile ground of trust.
So the real question for you, our listener, as you navigate your own world, your work, your relationships, it's not about choosing one over the other. That's a false choice. The deeper, more challenging question is this.
How do you weave them together?
Exactly. How will you intentionally, thoughtfully, strategically weave the dynamic power of persuasion with the unwavering, resilient strength of trust to build something truly lasting? What's the unique combination, the specific balance that will empower you not just to win now, but to be genuinely built to last?
That's the question to reflect on. A lot to think about there. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive.